Welcome to Womb Whispers, menstrual wisdom for everyday life. This is the podcast to follow if you want to radically trust your own body's cyclical wisdom, release trauma and internalized shame, and erode patriarchy from the inside out. I'm Lisa, and I'm on a mission to help you feel safe, happy, healthy, and holy in your body, and remember and reclaim the power and wisdom already stored in your bones. Hey, hello, and welcome back to this mini-series on the 4 phases of the cycle. In this third episode of how your cycle works you on all levels every month, on a physical, emotional, mental, psychological, and spiritual level, we will be talking, or I will be explaining, about your inner summer phase. If you haven't listened to the other 2 yet, your inner winter and your inner spring, don't worry. They are no prerequisite for today, but I strongly encourage you to go back and listen to them in the near future, just so that you've got the full picture, the full cycle, so to speak. And a note up front, you have a cycle because all beings are cyclical beings. So the 4 seasons apply to whatever cycle and cycles you go through, whether that's the menstrual cycle or the moon cycle or the daily cycle or the yearly cycle, the life cycles, or even project cycles at work. They all have the same exact 4 phases and they always have similar characteristics. Of course, in the scope of my work, this series is about the menstrual and the moon cycle, so it's especially relevant to women, whether or not they are bleeding and whether or not they have physical organs present, and also for non-binary bleeding folks and non-binary people in peri or post-menopause. If you're post-menopause or you don't have organs, you will not be influenced by the physical aspects as much, because these hormonal shifts aren't as pronounced. However, I do believe that you will find a subtle energetic shift, a subtle energetic rhythm when you start paying attention to it. And this series is really here to help you understand your own cycle, your own cyclical experience better, make sense of your own experience, connect to yourself and your cycle more deeply, because it's different for everyone. So in the end, you will be able to journey this monthly process with more ease, with more calm, with more confidence, and maybe even bring it into your communication with the outside world, because knowing about our cycle and knowing how to speak about our cycle can make it easier to juggle family life. Just creating more awareness and understanding for each other when, for example, different family members are in different phases of their cycle, or just being able to voice what kind of support you need in a certain phase. And so I'll explain about each phase and each season and how it works you on a physical, emotional, mental, psychological, and spiritual level, and one practice that you can do to connect to this quality, because in total a cycle is always regenerative, and when you allow each phase to have its rightful place, to be respected, then you will have more energy over the course of a whole cycle, and you will know what you are here for, what you want to put up with and what you don't, so that you can spend the energy you have, your precious life force, on those things that you really care about and that are important to you. Today's episode now is about inner summer. And when you have a menstrual cycle, inner summer is the time of ovulation. So basically when the egg is released from the follicle. This is usually a 24 to 48 hour window, but it can be felt on an energetic level. And in that case, this phase is more 3 to 5 days long. You have to see that for yourself, how long it lasts, how long you are in this summer ovulatory energy. And if you do not have a menstrual cycle, if you're post-menopause or you don't have a uterus or ovaries, or if you are pregnant or breastfeeding, then you can go according to the moon circle. And then inner summer is the full moon time. And this is usually a 3-day window. So the day of full moon, 1 day before and 1 day after. And just because it sometimes gets misunderstood, I don't mean to say that your ovulation has to coincide with full moon. It's rather, if you have a menstrual cycle, then ovulation is your inner summer. And if you go according to the moon cycle, then full moon is your inner summer, regardless of when your ovulation happens. In terms of a human's life cycle, summer is the phase of the mother or the parent, birthing something into this world, bringing something to fruition. Can be a physical child, but it can also be a passion project. And that's why the theme of this phase is the peak and the celebration of this huge surge of energy that can be there. On a physical level, ovulation is what's happening. So again, the egg is being released. Also, testosterone rises, which increases our libido, our sex drive, our drive to procreate. I mean, it's very smart of nature to have that rise at the same time as ovulation to increase the chance of getting pregnant and procreate if you wish to. Then also on a physical level, there is the mucus, the cervical mucus that's released, because usually the mucus is like a plug at the cervix, at the entrance to the uterus. And for ovulation, this is released to make way for the sperm to get into the uterus. And you can sometimes find that in your panties. And then you know, okay, you're close to ovulation now. Also, your cervix is softer and more open, and your temperature, your basal temperature jumps. Now that jump is a little, it sounds like a lot. It isn't. It's tenths of degrees. So not a lot. You have to have a very, very fine thermometer to be able to track that. But that's what happens on a physical level. And on a physical energetic level, this is often a time where energy peaks, like we've got the most energy out of the whole cycle. We are often very action-oriented, and we can even feel like superhuman for a few days. So be sure to catch yourself when the inner autumn phase kicks in, that I'll be talking about in the next episode. But for a few days, it's okay to burn the candle on both ends, or to burn the midnight oil or whatever, but to really go for it, because at this time we often do have the energy. Not everyone experiences it the same, so be sure to chart your own cycle so you know what's happening for you in inner summer. On an emotional level, we tend to feel either confident, radiant, magnetic, optimistic, having like this positive outlook on the world, wanting to show ourselves, feeling really alive, like everything is buzzing and humming. And for some, this can be too much intensity and too much heat, basically. I sometimes compare it to countries where they hold siestas in the middle of the day because there's just too much heat. And some people can feel ungrounded because they are lost in all the doing and the to-dos and the tasks, and they are burning all the energy they have left instead of being mindful and tending to it. And so we've again these two polarities, and your experience can be on either side of the spectrum, or between, or beyond. That's why it's important that you get acquainted with how summer shows up for you. And on a mental psychological level, we can feel more outward. We can enjoy to show ourselves, be communicative. And I know that for an introvert, communicative looks very different compared to an extrovert. That is okay. But in terms of your personal flavor, this can be or tends to be a time where you are the most communicative. Also a time where you can be more diplomatic. So it might be easier to navigate tough situations in this phase. But also we can tend to push ourselves, to push ourselves too much out of the comfort zone in a way that we are not yet ready for, that our nervous system is not yet ready for, just because of the societal conditioning, which tells us that doing is the best and we need to be productive and on all the time. And so we can push ourselves to keep the energy up because it's so celebrated, even though the energy already might start declining as you move into the next phase. And that's why it's so necessary to ground back into the moment, to check in every day. Where is my energy level at? How am I today? And how much energy do I have to spend? And how can I take care of myself and of my energy? And also trying to get your mind on board that it's okay, even necessary, to rest sometimes, to be instead of do. And on a spiritual level, this is all about celebration, celebrating life, ceremony, gratitude, being grateful for what's already present in your life. And also, since it's connected to the full moon, there is this sense of illumination, highlighting both the qualities and strengths that we have, but also what we might need to release, like what's no longer aligned with who we are. So it's a very interesting time that we can use to both cherish and also even become more of ourselves by releasing what's not aligned with us. And I have a question for you to ponder or journal on. What am I grateful for that's already here? What are my gifts and strengths? And this is really powerful to set a timer for like 5 minutes and journal on this. What am I grateful for that's already here? What are my gifts and strengths? Because you are always whole, right? You have always everything inside of you that you need. So what is it that you can celebrate that's here, that's now, that you love about yourself? That can be inside or outside. Because this phase is about celebrating all of who you are, the light and the shadow. And when I speak of the shadow, I mean these characteristics or behaviors that we may push aside, that we have pushed aside over our life, or that we may push aside during other phases of the cycle because society told us that it makes us less valuable. And so it might be something that you perceive as a weakness now, but others might actually even adore you for it, or they don't find it nearly half as bad as you make it to be or you think it to be. And so it's about celebrating all of this, the light and the shadow, because that's what life is about. It's about ebb and flow. And as a practice, I invite you to shine brightly and celebrate life in whatever way feels good for you, what makes you feel alive, and celebrate that. And also nurturing, the practice of nurturing, for example, the intention that you set in spring. Maybe you remember about that or go back to Inner Spring and listen to it, but you might have set an intention, and that's about nurturing and looking at it day by day. What does it need? What kind of tending is needed? So that you can do, and then you catch yourself hopefully before you overexert yourself. And this concludes how the summer works you on all 4 levels. And again, this is just a basic overview. It's an archetypal summer, and your experience is unique to you. And it can be totally different to what I've shared, or it can fall anywhere on the spectrum. What I've shared is just a starting point. It's about your experience, what ovulation is like for you, what the full moon phase is like for you, what you experience in inner summer, and where you fall in the spectrum. Or maybe you fall completely out of it, and that's okay too. It's about paying attention to your own cyclical experience. And I've got a resource for that. If you want to enroll in my free cycle charting course, I will link to that below, because it will help you understand and learn about your personal cyclical rhythm, your patterns, and live more in tune with them. I, for myself, know that this helped me to ease in a lot of the conditions Like when you experience menstrual health challenges, it can help alleviate or like make some of the symptoms more mild or more bearable just because you stop struggling against yourself and your body. And so there is less stress, and that usually means less symptoms. And if you want to go deeper, I invite you into the Sacred Cycle Deep Dive session. That is a heart-to-heart with your cycle, facilitated by me, but really just facilitated. I will be asking you and your cycle questions that will allow you to connect with your cycle, to communicate with your cycle. Because as much as I like to teach about cycles and cyclical living, I don't have your experience. You are the expert on you. You know yourself best, and only you and your cycle can team up and know how to support each other. From the outside, I of course can't do that. That's why I will only be facilitating this conversation. And it's especially helpful if you suffer from any menstrual health challenges, but it's also just for starting this conversation, and you will receive some resources with it so that you can strengthen and deepen the experience and start building this beautiful relationship with your body and your cycle as your friends and allies in life. And in any case, please subscribe to this podcast, leave a review, and subscribe or sign up for Moonday Musings. That's my personal weekly e-letter that I write on moon days. Mondays are connected to the moon. That's why I call them moon days. And these letters shall help you ease into the week with more confidence, more connected to yourself, being fully present in your body, being in tune with your emotional landscape. So subscribe to that, and be sure to check out the other 3 episodes in this series on the inner winter, inner spring, and inner autumn. And I will link to all of that below. And now I wish you a beautiful day. Much love. Thank you so much for listening. Now, before you go, if you enjoyed this episode, please share the love by leaving a raving review and forwarding the episode to a friend who really needs to hear this today. You can learn more about me and my work over on my website or in my weekly e-letters, Moonday Musings, that I send each Moonday, Monday morning, to start off the week more connected to yourself and fully present in your glorious body. And if there's a question or topic you want me to explore further, send me a mail and let me know. Now, have a lovely weekend and speak soon.